Well, let's talk now to Craig Mackinlay, the Conservative candidate for Kent, and the former Solicitor General, Vera Bird, who's the Labour candidate for Northumbria. Hello to both of you.
Hello, good afternoon.
I know you were listening, Vera and Craig, to what the people that Matt spoke to were saying. They're not convinced by politicians, Vera Bird.
Well, I think that's a lot to do with not understanding what the job's about, to be honest, too. And define politician. I mean, the police authorities are run by councillors who are usually elected from one party or the other. I'm undoubtedly Labour. I was 9 years an MP. I was 30 years a criminal barrister, and for the last 2 I've been running a violence against women pair of organisations. So, I mean, the definition needs a bit of firming too. But look, what is really good about your programme today is the opportunity to say to the public what the job is. It is not to run the police force. That will be done by a chief constable. It is to consult the public and to find out what their policing needs are, and then negotiate with the chief constable how her plan, because it's my chief constable's woman, how her policing plan will deliver those policing needs. And then the PCC, the Police Commission, must go back to the people and monitor and scrutinise the way that plan is delivered to make sure it's fulfilling their needs. So it's very, very important, I think, to get that point across, that the job is certainly not running the police force, which will be left absolutely to the chief constable.
Well, you're right to point out that, you know, just your own example, your work history, your professional history provides context that's much deeper than just the word politician. Craig, what about you, Craig Mackinlay? You're a councillor, aren't you? Or you were a councillor?
I'm indeed, yes. I mean, we'll trust, Matt, that there wasn't any funny editing going on the streets.
Absolutely not.
I think what we found from that conversation with the people on the streets was that there is a lack of knowledge about how policing and scrutiny of policing currently operates. I think only one there mentioned the existence of a police authority at all. And I think many people don't even know what police authorities do and what their functions are.
Or who's on them.
Or who's on them, exactly. And I think that is another issue. I mean, I'm on the Kent Police Authority, have been for just over a year. And as was correctly pointed out, it is made up of councillors, predominantly in the majority, and then there are some independent members who have applied and have been selected. So
and can they just be, you know, a concerned citizen?
They can, when there's a resignation or a place arises. There's an advert, people can write in and say, yes, I've got some qualities for that job, and then the existing authority then decides from that shortlist, you might make a good one to be one of us.
And are you both finding, I'm guessing you have, Vera, because you raised the point that people are confused about what the job will be. They think it will be to run the police force. So are you both finding that is a confusion that people have?
I've been busy getting selected, so that my kind of understanding would be a little bit unrepresentative in the sense that it is Labour Party people, and now I think, because we got a very high poll to back me, with which I was delighted, I think we have now got across the message to our own members that it isn't about running the police force at all, that it is indeed about consulting the public.
What about you, Craig?
I can't see that it isn't going to be a different misunderstanding that the public has. I think it's going to be exactly the same one.
Have you found that, Craig? The people aren't quite sure.
The problem with this new election is that it's new. It's a whole new world. As I said earlier, most people haven't got a clue that police authorities exist. So they don't know what we've got at the moment and the deficiencies in that system, that it's unelected, there is no accountability. I mean, if everybody were to look at their council tax bill, they will see a fairly hefty line at the bottom that is the police precept. There is no linkage between that taxation and the representation.
How do you convince people as candidates that you really understand policing sufficiently, the real on-the-ground policing?
They'll have to look at the individual involved, won't they, really? My experience, for instance, is 30 years as a criminal barrister, mostly defending, getting to know, as it were, the police in the same way that a trade union gets to know management, and management gets to know a trade union, and then, of course, the Solicitor General running the Crown Prosecution Service jointly with the attorney. And the Crown Prosecution Service prosecute what the police investigate, and I work closely with the police for 3 years as colleagues, so I have experience from both vantage points. We also ought not to forget that the job is far, far wider than the police. Criminal, cutting crime, victim support, community safety, none of which are within the remit properly of the police authorities now, will also come into the Police and Crime Commissioner's standpoint. And I mean, I have an enormous amount of experience, mostly through my efforts to tackle violence against women throughout my adult life, of dealing with victims, which will stand me in good stead too. I think the public is going to have to assess the individual.
Is that how you see it, Craig, as well?
Well, exactly. I mean, this is a political election. There is no doubt about that, and it will be largely driven on party lines. And I think it's up to I'm listening to Vera, and I know her CV very well. She's got some very, very capable qualities. And I would like to think people will look at Vera and people like myself. I mean, just to give you a summary of myself, I'm a magistrate locally.
Do it.
Okay, I will, yes. I'm a magistrate.
Vera did, Craig, you do it.
I'm a magistrate on the North Kent bench. I'm already a member of the Kent Police Authority, so I've got a good idea of the oversight remit of the police authority. I'm a counsellor on the unitary. You put all those together, and I've got another trait which I think is particularly relevant at this time, is that I'm a chartered accountant. There are cuts happening across all forms of government, and the police are not being exempted from that. So put those together, put aside that I'm a Conservative, put that batch of qualities together, and I think you've got a good batch of skills that I think will be good even if you took the Conservative badge away from it at all. So I think that's the important thing. Look at the people, look at the skills they bring. Perhaps you're not a political animal and you've got concerns about this being a political election, but I think put all that together and you're going to replace what we haven't got at the moment, and that's democratic accountability, with something far better, which is democratic accountability.
Well, thank you both for your vital statistics on that front. Many thanks. Craig Mackinlay, the Conservative candidate for Kent, and the former Solicitor General Vera Bird, who's the Labour candidate for Northumbria and candidate for Police Commissioner of those areas. It is